Hey y'all, happy Sunday evening. Thank you for tuning in to another What Else is Going On, aka We Go um podcast episode. We're going to talk some Salt Lake City. Y'all, I have to be honest. I started doing this recap yesterday at 12. Friday night. No, yesterday was Saturday, right? So Friday night, Corey came home and he was like, "You look like you're coming down with something like a cold." And I have been sneezing and all that in my throat. And I was like, I think I am. So he immediately was like, what can I get you? And he gave me Alka-Seltzer and all that stuff. I went, and so I fell asleep on the couch. He woke me up. We went upstairs, went to bed, woke up yesterday morning, still not really feeling good. So, I mean, he saw my eyes were open. He was up. He came down, got me some Alka-Seltzer, was like, drink this. Cause he had um, plans yesterday, and so did I. I had a family dinner with my girlfriend's family, and I knew I had to do it. And then I had a recording, which, by the way, if you don't know, I recorded with my friend Mandy from Is This Real Life? So make sure you go and check that out. But before I recorded with her, I was like, I need to get my Salt Lake City recap done. It was supposed to be out Friday, but I told them Saturday or Sunday. Y'all, I started doing that. And when I tell you, you just when you can feel like your energy just draining from you. And then I felt like my throat was like everything just started getting worse. I was almost done, y'all. I had to stop. And what I should have done was just paused it and then came back. Y'all X'd out of the whole thing. I left, got me a Red Bull because I still had to record later with Mandy. And I had to go to my uh family dinner with my girlfriend's family that we're family. So I went over there. But I am back. I worked today because I didn't work. Well, I worked for like 30 minutes yesterday. But then I went out to work today, went to the gym, and I had a Red Bull before the gym. And I'm like, I need you to keep the same energy. Like Whitney had to zip up her energy. I need to conserve the same way. So let's get into this Salt Lake City recap because we have Potomac tonight. All right. So I did not recap last week Salt Lake City because I was so late. And by the time I did my notes, I took notes and everything. I was like, what's the point? I still should have done it. So I'll just start out by saying Lisa was dead wrong for calling Heather at that pool, and I would have read her down to her feet. Todd wouldn't have had to tell her you need to leave. It would have been on. Ain't there is no way. To me, it was disrespectful to do that. This is my trip. You know me and her having problems, and you gonna FaceTime her while we're out here, and then you want to act oblivious, like the the faces that she makes, looking like a guppy, like you know how a guppy mouth is kind of like open, like not that she looks like a guppy. She's a beautiful woman, but I'm talking about like she puts me in the mind of one when she's sitting there looking confused. Like if y'all are watching on YouTube, then you know the face I'm making. Make sure you check me out, not just wherever you find your podcast, but also on YouTube, WEIGO podcast. So yeah, that's what I have to say from last week. I definitely would have, and I didn't mind Todd going to John and saying, check this out. Basically, whatever's going on with your wife and my wife, like we not get ready to have this weekend, so you and your wife gonna have to go. I was with him. You want to jump bad and be calling folks and knowing that we have an issue thinking you're making a show? Well, guess what? You will be out of here. I didn't have a problem with him telling John because he went to John and not Lisa. He didn't involve her. You know what I'm saying? He didn't do that. So I was good with that. So we end the episode. John is telling her, let's go outside. So basically nobody here. So we pick back up. And he's telling her basically, you have to get it together with Bronwyn or we're going to have to leave. They go outside so they can talk. And he's just saying, and Lisa's like, this is making me so uncomfortable. And because, of course, it's about Lisa's comfortability, not even thinking how it could have made Bronwyn feel with you FaceTiming Heather. Anyway, now all of a sudden, her relationship with Bronwyn is fine. She loves Bronwyn. I said, that's because she don't want to leave that fabulous trip. And she doesn't want to quite end the friendship. Bronwyn has connections, right? So here we go with the tears again. I'm gonna keep saying it. She has cried every episode. And I don't find anything wrong with crying. Please, to me, people who can't cry, I kind of feel for them at times because it's like, for me, crying is an outlet, and I feel so much better right after crying. But y'all used to get on another housewife and her crying. But anyway, Anyway, John said it seems like y'all were getting along in the hot tub for a second, and then all of a sudden it went sideways. Again, it's because she called Heather. Um, so John says it's weird for him to see Bronwyn and Lisa basically fighting all of a sudden. And, Lisa's like, I love Bronwyn. Um, and then Lisa says she thinks there's a common denominator. And she says it's Whitney. It's a common denominator between Bronwyn and Lisa and Whitney and Lisa, and it's Angie. I'm sorry, Sue, I'm wrong. She thinks that the problem she has with Bronwyn, the issue that's between her and Bronwyn, and the issue that's between her and Angie is Whitney. Whitney has nothing to do with her and Bronwyn at all. Like, at all. To me, I don't even understand, unless there's something we didn't see, how in the world she could even equate Whitney with the Bronwyn situation. If you want to say with the Andy situation, although you didn't even hear Angie out back in episode 1, when yes, Angie should not have went back and told Whitney anything you said, even if she was trying to get y'all to mend fences. She shouldn't have done that. But other than that, like, Whitney doesn't really have anything to do with that situation either. Of course, that's in Lisa's mind. So we see Todd and Bronwyn. Todd tells Bronwyn let's go have some lunch, and he's got to make a call. Now, in her confessional, Lisa says, I definitely don't want to leave this trip early. I came here to celebrate Todd and Bronwyn, and that's what I want to do. I want to fix things with Bronwyn and move forward. I don't want the rest of the trip to feel like this. I'm going to keep saying it. Again, you came to celebrate Todd and Bronwyn, which you called Heather. Okay. This was the awkwardest sit down. They go sit down at lunch, and like the tension, and you could cut the tension and the awkwardness, right? With a knife. Mind you, remember when we started out the episode, it was John and Lisa talking. John tells Lisa she needs to talk to Bronwyn with no one around and get in the middle of it. She goes, yes, I don't want anybody around. Cue to them at lunch with everyone at the table, Lisa leaning over and says, okay, I wanted to talk to you. We didn't get to finish our conversation. I think with Heather, I don't think there was anything to defend. I think she was expressing her feelings, and it's hard to have a conversation with you about that because these are her feelings on a situation that you had with her. Exactly. That Bronwyn had with her. It's not what I had with her. And Lisa is saying when it comes to feelings, it's harder to express because basically she's just expressing feelings. But if someone were lying on me, and then she kind of dips her hand towards Whitney like that way. Whitney says, I'm not lying about you, Lisa. That was just so funny, the juxtaposition, her and Bronwyn talking, and when it's about feelings, it's one thing to be about feelings. But then if someone's lying about you, I'm not lying about you, Lisa, just like the voice out of left field. Lisa says, you are. And Whitney says, I'm telling you the information that I was told. Lisa says, you didn't ask me, you accused me. And Whitney says, I asked you. Now, look, these two ladies, I don't see it for either one. I am siding with Lisa, or I agree with Lisa, not even siding on this one little thing. Whitney started out, it was accusatory when they were at the party. It was like, someone's giving me concrete information that you talked about my jewelry being from Alibaba. And then when Lisa's like, I didn't do it, it's like, I've got the information. Did you do it? Instead of leading with, listen, someone sent me some information, and from what it looks like, it seems like the information is pointing to you talking about my Prism jewelry line. But I want to ask you if it was you, because I don't want to believe that it's you. Or even that she could be like, you're accusing me. But the way Whitney's saying, I have concrete evidence, it's you. And a part of me is like, okay, she saying that to kind of give Lisa an out to say, okay, it is me. I don't know. It did come off accusatory at first. It really did. So Lisa says, you say you have proof. I want to see the proof because I didn't do it. Are one of these horses going to bring the proof? I mean, that was kind of funny. Whitney said, we sat down calmly and you started yelling, crying, yelling, running around, and charged at my husband and incited my husband. Facts. Lisa says, charged at your husband. Oh, I think your husband's capable of taking care of himself. As a matter of fact, my husband will never talk to a woman the way your husband talked to me. I said, this lady is delusional. She started that with Justin. In her confessional, Bronwyn says, I could just if I could just get one. Wait, it says if I could just get wait. Bleh. I thought I was about to get an apology from Lisa, and I still want that apology. But it just takes Lisa so long to get to an apology that by the time we almost get there, someone else is mad at her about something totally different. I may never get this apology. Whitney says, I felt very uneasy. And Lisa says, I'm sure you felt uneasy. Like I felt when your husband was like, F you, F me, F or F to me. Justin said, I did not say like the F word to you. I did not. And he didn't say it. Let's go back. Remember when John was telling them this, telling Seth the story on the in the car on the way to, I was going to say Lake Norman, child, that's Potomac, but on the way to the house in Palm Springs, he said Lisa walked up to him and said, your wife's an effing liar. So that's interesting the way Lisa remembers things. But this was interesting. When Justin was saying, I didn't say it, Todd told Bronwyn, I'm going to go sit in the other room. And Bronwyn said, no, just sit right here with me for a minute. And he sat. He was sat. Um, Lisa then says, I watched, yeah, like, yes, you did. I watched the whole thing. And I started thinking, what did she mean by that? You know how when they are filming, even though they have to take it back and edit it, they do have, do they call it not Valley Village? It's not, I know that's Vanderpump, but is it like Production Village or something like that, where there are producers there and of course the cameraman is there and it's like a van you could go to? Is she saying, because for her to say, I watched the whole thing, was she saying she went back and watched it on the monitors after that scene? For her to say, I watched the whole thing. You were a part of it. So how did you watch it in that minute? I don't know. Um, in his confessional, John says it feels like it's nonstop. Basically, if Lisa breathes, she did something wrong. If Lisa sneezes, she did something wrong. What's next? She is wrong, though, in some of these situations. She's not willing to just be. Lisa is like a child. She can't sit still and be quiet and let someone else get something out. And that's like so frustrating to me. John basically comes in to the rescue and says to Whitney, ask Lisa if she did it. Whitney asks her and Lisa says no. He then says, Whitney, did you lie? Whitney says, no, I did not lie. He was like, that's it. Like, basically, it's over. It's done. So in her confessional, Bronwyn said, who knew John Barlow could come and solve the little, like the women's problems? And then they flash forward to a scene when the ladies were all in a hot tub getting along and like made it like the show was ending because John solved the problem. Y'all, I'm not gonna lie. When I first watched it, I thought I must have stopped. I must have started in the middle of the episode or towards the end. I was like, wait, how was it the end already? They got me for a minute. And then I realized, oh, this is weird. Oh, okay. This is something they put in the episode. So they had got me for a minute. So John Barlow says Lisa's never lied about anybody at the table. Sean, Angie's husband, steps right in and says to Angie, didn't she tell somebody you were an effing B? And Angie said she told me I was. Now that's not a lie. I mean, that's not a lie that Lisa told me. Meaning, I'm not saying Angie is, but when John is saying Lisa doesn't lie on anybody, what Sean says is accurate, but it's not Lisa lying. You know what I mean? But she still was out of pocket. Because because I said since episode 1, Lisa's been like, as Nene said, been throwing around them B words. Watch those B words, girl. Anyway, they show the flashback of her calling Angie an effing B. And Sean says it's borderline abusive. He says, I've been privy to conversations between the two of you and really taken aback by some of the abuse that my wife has taken on the other end of that phone. And Lisa says, wow. In her confessional, she says, I'm not abusive to her. Why is her husband talking to me? He's lucky I can see him over the table. He says, basically, I'm on the other end of these phone calls listening. And I'm wondering towards her, like, how could you let anybody treat you like that? Lisa says, Lisa can't dispute it because he's saying, I hear you. Not like what she told, like Angie told me, I hear you. So what she tries to do is she tries to flip it. She says, I have a different way of speaking and you clearly don't understand me. Okay, so here's the thing. You have a different way of speaking. I have a different way of responding. So when I have you balled up in the corner crying your eyes out because I'm responsible, because we can't, as much as we may want to say, oh, this person reacted too big, you cannot dictate someone's response to you when they come at you, right? When they're coming at you, not when they're trying to have a calm, respectful conversation with you. But when someone comes at you disrespectfully, you can't dictate, like they can't dictate your response. So for her to that whole I have a different way of speaking, and it's like, people have different ways of reacting too. And you just may end up on the other end of that, not liking what you got back from them, right? So she says to Angie, if I've ever hurt you, I'm sorry. Girl. Could we say that Jen Shaw had a different way of speaking when she got up in their faces, hollering, screaming, and pointing her finger at them? Was that okay then? No, but that was her way of speaking. I'm so sick of people saying that when they're just straight up disrespectful. Anyway, Seth then raises his hand and says, listen, I have two really important questions. One, I've always wanted to know, is it just me or how many people, when they eat asparagus, they smell it in their urine? They all say them, and then they raise their hands. And then he says, next thing, who's up for some beach volleyball? And they all go get ready to play beach volleyball. So back in Salt Lake City, Mary is at home. Y'all, I got to take a sip of my hot water for this one. Mary goes into the room. Y'all, Robert Jr. is in his bed with his wife, not wife, because we know that they're not legally married, eating. Girl, let me just put this out there. I'm speaking for Black people. No, we are not a monolith. We know that. We're not all the same. But I do think there's some of us that feel like there are certain things in our culture that are just universal for the most part. And for me, one of those things was ain't nobody allowed in your room. You could be grown if you live here and I pay the bills. It's my rules. And the way, not only was she in the room, okay, say she had been sitting in the chair. She was in the bed with him and then was feeding him. And did y'all see? Mary had asked them a question and she was feeding him and she did her eyes like this. Again, y'all gotta listen and watch the YouTube. Little girl, I know you ain't sitting here. Get downstairs now. Girl, what I said, Mary, why you bugging? Mary, you know better than that. Ain't no way that girl should have been up there in that bed comfortable. Spoiling is one thing, Mary. And then was she getting ready to vape or something while Mary was? Okay. And you see how Robert Jr. did grab her hand, though. Had a little bit of sense. Girl, his girlfriend anyway says to Mary, you look cute. Little girl, don't talk to me. Child. So in her confessional, Mary says something's going on with Robert Jr. and I'm concerned. He's typically like very ambitious, but lately he's just not. He's not doing anything. So in the scene, she's asking them, are they going to get up, get dressed, get a shower, brush their teeth, go somewhere? Robert Jr. was just kind of like looking at her and y'all, my heart was breaking because sometimes you put yourself in that position. Like if that was my son, I just would be heartbroken because you want to help them, and a piece of them is just doesn't seem to be there. Like what happened, right? In her confessional, Mary says, I just feel like it's my fault because I definitely spoiled him. I mean, he's my life. He gives me reason to live. And I feel like I'm losing him to something and it's not good. And she said, I feel like I can do something about it. If I can just find him, whatever that takes, I'm going to do it. And then in scene, she says to them, I feel like I'm talking to two little babies. You're not even prepared for the world that's out there. And I want you ready. I want you ready for that. And right now, I just don't think you are. It really hit me when Mary said, if I can just find him, because she knows he's not there. And I think, of course, she probably knows what it is. And of course, she's not going to say that on camera. And although it's hard to watch, because child, when they showed that scene next week of him crying, I said, Lord, I'm be crying. Because again, I'm thinking about my son. Like if that were my son or one of my kids, you know what I mean? But I hope that this helps a parent, even a child. Like I just hope that this message gives somebody hope. Because yes, these are reality shows and we laugh and these ladies can just be over the top and all of those things. But I do believe watching these shows is like a study in human psychology, from the viewers to the women on the show, but also then there's stuff like this, So I really hope that it helps somebody. And my heart goes out to Mary and Robert Jr. Where's Robert Sr.? Is he still in Vegas or is he really in the house and we just not seeing him? All right, moving on. So editing does this thing where they say Bravo presents top wives and all the wives are spraying down their husbands. Now, look, I really don't find none of the men attractive necessarily on Salt Lake City. Sean is built and he's nice looking, right? But for the most part, I really don't. But don't judge me right now. I'm just telling y'all. The men do look like they're getting in shape. Even Justin looked like he's trying to get in a little bit of shape, whatever. And when he had took the volleyball and spun it around his fingers, it was like the way the light probably was on him in the camera. I said, okay, Whit. But then I came back. I had seen it for like a half a second when he spun the ball. Yeah. Okay. They play volleyball. They have a good time. Then they all get ready for dinner. In her confessional, Bronwyn says, I would go to the opening of a can of tuna fish. And I was, if she was invited and she loves a party. Her and Todd celebrate their anniversary every year. She says they do a big celebration for their wedding anniversary. She wanted to celebrate this too. She says, I really love Todd. And if I didn't, I should really have earned a lot of money after 10 years. We've been together a long time. This is a big deal. So John and Lisa are in the room. John says, did you get over lunch? Are you ready for dinner? And Lisa says, I'm actually ready for dinner. I feel so much better with Bronwyn. And like, I know she's my friend. What? Y'all haven't even had, you can't even, and I said, it's interesting that she says that, but when it comes to Heather, she's not the same type of friend anyway. So she says, then she flips it and brings up Sean and Angie. And she says, basically with Sean and Angie, I don't even know the issue. It's changed so many times. I feel like that's because you get to hollering and screaming whenever the issue with Angie comes up. So you don't really let anybody finish. And that's just truly how I feel. She said, I forgot to tell you how when I was with Heather and Meredith at the spa, Meredith was like, my feelings are hurt about Sean. He didn't apologize for saying I used my son. And I was like, here she go, bringing up something that doesn't have anything to do with her. And she says to Meredith, I'm sorry that happened, but I can't speak to that because my experience hasn't been like that. Interesting that you can say that to Meredith about Sean, but you can't say it to Heather about Bronwyn when Heather says she's terrifying and she's two-faced, and you have not experienced her being two-faced to you. You have not had that experience with her. You've actually been two-faced, talking about Maylee. What's her name? Maylee, Whitney's friend, and her returning things to Nordstrom, spreading gossip. You've done that and then been in the girl's face smiling. And then when she confronts you looking like a deer in headlights in the basketball skybox or what have you, right? So it's interesting that she could say that to Meredith, but can't say it to Heather about Bronwyn. Whitney's getting ready with Justin, and she says things are so awkward with Lisa. She hasn't spoken to her since lunch. And Justin is basically like, do you think it'll get better or do you think it's going to continue till tonight? Whitney says, I believe my source fully. How do I move forward and trust Lisa? That's the problem. She's never going to admit it, but I don't know how to trust her. I don't know. I'm just going to see how it goes because I don't even know if I have two F's to give. Bronwyn has decided on that 4,170,000 necklace and puts it on. It's gorgeous. They go outside. The setup is absolutely beautiful. Angie tells Bronwyn how stunning her necklace is. Everyone arrives dressed up, and Lisa walks in with John and is like, "Am I too casual?" In her confessional, Bronwyn says, "I know that Lisa's eyes are drawn right to my necklace, but what I would like her to be drawn to is an apology or a decent friendship with me. But I'm starting to realize she might want to keep it more surface level, and I'm sad about that. But maybe I'll have to respect that's all I mean to Lisa, right?" Now, to be fair, I will say that they did bring somebody, I think it was Angie, actually brought um Bronwyn's necklace, like the attention of the necklace to Lisa. So I will say that. Bronwyn introduces Todd's friend, who is a lawyer, to Angie and Lisa, and she goes, "Lisa, much like you, Todd has many lawyers." Um, and she was like, "I love that." And she was like, "So if you need a lawyer, he's your guy." Y'all, Todd says to his friend, talking about Lisa and John, "These guys own a tequila company." And then he says, "It's a mediocre tequila company." I said, come on. Is he telling the truth? Because when all the ladies were taking the shot of Vita that Angie went and got them the first day um, at Palm Springs when they were all around the hot tub, they didn't take it to the head. So anyway, I said Todd is something else. So with their setup, Todd and Bronwyn have letters that are RTBAN, which stand for Richard Todd, Bronwyn, Allison, Newport. Okay. Whitney and Angie are laughing because Whitney's like, "You see what Seth is wearing?" And Seth has on, well, Whitney says he's wearing a Meredith Marks hat, but actually it's Brooks Marks hat. Listen, I guess he said, "I'm trying to market my son." At the table, Justin tells Bronwyn, "Wow, your necklace is unbelievable." And Angie said, "Todd's got another 10 years out of you." And Bronwyn says, "I'm going to do almost anything to stay with Todd." Um, then she says, "Actually, it's a bad thing for Todd because I'm actually not really willing to do anything. It's not like I offered him a lifetime subscription of BJ's." Angie says, "I mean, you're going to kind of have to give a lifetime of BJ's for that." So Bronwyn says, "Lucky for me, he travels a lot." So Whitney says, "Well, one goes a long way, ciao." Anyway, so someone says it's cold, and then Bronwyn says, "It's miserable out here, but beautiful," kind of like an analogy for our marriage. I get the jokes, and I don't feel like I feel like there's truth in a joke. I don't feel like there's always, sometimes you do throw a joke out because you think it'll be funny and there's not necessarily truth to it, right? I just think what we're about to get into just went on kind of long and it kind of felt awkward. I don't necessarily feel like it's an indication of how Bronwyn feels. I mean, look, we know that Todd shut some things down, which we'll get into, and people are feeling like, oh, it's a Tom Girardi, Erica Girardi thing. I don't see that. Um, we're seeing a snippet of these people's lives. I don't necessarily think he's walking around with an iron fist, if you will. Then again, I don't know. None of us know. But anyway, but Bronwyn was joking. I think the joke kind of went on for a while. So she says, again, when someone said it's cold, she said it's like an analogy for our marriage, miserable but beautiful. She said, "I could basically bore you with all the reasons I love Todd." Then she goes on, "No, I could really do a fast too." And like I said, she's kind of clowning her marriage. And in her confessional, Meredith says, "I don't know all that much about Bronwyn and Todd's relationship, but it feels like there's a mild tension there." I say mild tension, but I don't even know if that's the right word. It's an unusual engagement with each other. So we get back in the scene. Bronwyn is rubbing Todd's hair and says, "We have tons of fun together, and he has made me a better person. Everything is so wonderful. And I feel that way about so many of you as I'm getting to know you," which I felt like maybe she could have left that part out and just kept it focused on Todd. She says, "I think we have good days, we have bad days. And I hope um, that the good and the bad are at least a good story at the end of it, right? So maybe let's cheers to a good story." Maybe they cut up some of what she said because it was kind of clunky to me. Angie gets up and she has dry erase boards and hands them out. And they're like, Angie, here we go with Angie's game. She wants to play the newlywed game. She said growing up, she always wanted to be on the newlywed game. So she apologizes to the other guests because she didn't know they were coming and she doesn't have a board for them. She says it's probably better for your marriage if you don't play. Meredith was like, I'll share my board. Matter of fact, you can have it. So Angie says you cannot look at your partner's answer. You can't look at the answer they write and you can't tell a lie. And Lisa yells out, we hate liars. I said, see that passive aggressive stuff? What if somebody had been like, oh, so who's a liar? Who be lying, Lisa? Like that could have got like, girl, shut up. It's like a kid who doesn't know, like, it's just the passive aggressive stuff. And I guess it just works whatever. And I can be honest and say again, I don't care for Lisa. I mean, to be honest, I didn't care for half the cast. Mary was really the only one that I really saw it for. And then there was a time when it was Meredith, when she would have Mary's back, like that season where they came at her and Lisa brought that guy to come to her event to try to expose Mary. Because let's not forget, that's what I'm saying. Lisa's not as innocent in things as she portrays. But anyway, they're all getting along right now. So we just going to go with that. Angie, question number 1. Who apologizes first? Lisa and John both say Lisa. Good for the, point for them. Meredith says her, but Seth says him. He says that's his morning mantra. And Meredith says, on the days you're home. Ooh, boop. In her confessional, Meredith says, not only am I the one to apologize first, but I'm also the one who owes way less apologies. I'm rarely wrong. They get to Bronwyn and Todd, and they both say Bronwyn. Whitney and Justin both choose Whitney. And Angie and Sean both choose Sean. She says Greeks don't apologize. The next question was, what is your husband's favorite sexual position? They fall out laughing. And Lisa was like, oh my God, I'm so private. In her confessional, Lisa says, this was kind of funny. Lisa says, I don't know if this is some segue into an after dinner party, but John and I are not interested. Did she say we're into monogamy or we're monogamous or something like that? Todd says all of them. And Bronwyn says, who cares as long as I don't want to talk afterwards. Lisa says all of them. And John says on top. And then Lisa's like, oh, he kept it PG. And then he goes, oh, I forgot to add a word and adds bouncing. When I tell you, that was funny. Seth says any position. Meredith says it's not up for discussion. Justin says Whitney on top. Child, Whitney says cowgirl, reverse cowgirl, and BJ. Todd said, is there anything else you want to share with us? And Justin says, we got a little personal. Mm-hmm. Sean says reverse cowgirl. Angie says from behind. Now, Ange, because she says Greeks invented from behind, but this is the right hole. Thank you. Girl, what? I said, no, Angie. I'm going to have to look into that whole Greeks invented hitting it from the back. Because what? Girl, I'm going to need you to show me where it say that at. In her confessional, Angie said, look, it's nothing we learned about in Sunday school, of course. It's just like a known fact. Child, the next question was, who is your wife's least favorite person at the table? And it can't be you. Bronwyn says, this is a dirty game. Lisa writes Whitney. Whitney says, obviously. John said, I didn't get a chance to write anything. And his was blank. Angie says, my first instinct is that I'm still working on things with Meredith, but I really like her, which I thought was nice. Sean says, I have the same caveat, but we're working towards like something better. And he writes Mare, like short for Meredith, but he wrote M-A-R. Meredith is like, I'm M-E-R. Now, in her confessional, Meredith says, Sean, since you're so obsessed with me that you can't stop talking about me, perhaps you should learn how to spell my name. Bronwyn says, okay, well, I wrote it in cursive with a heart over the I, but I did say Lisa. Child, Lisa was shocked. What? Whitney says Meredith. And I was kind of like, but not Lisa? Okay, there is something deep there then. Justin says Lisa. Bronwyn says, okay, no more games. Whitney says, Lisa, do you still feel like Justin owes you an apology? And she says, yes. And Whitney says, have you ever been that aggressive towards him, though? Lisa said, I didn't feel like I was aggressive towards him. I feel like I was frustrated because what you were saying is a lie. In her confessional, Bronwyn says, I'm so over this argument about who started the Alibaba rumor. At this point, I'm almost willing to say it was me. I'm the problem. I started the Alibaba rumor. just so I could say I'll never do it again. As a matter of fact, I might use Todd's phone later, create a Twitter account, start a whole new rumor so we can have something else to talk about. Justin said, but you came directly to me and said, I don't know how you deal with your wife being a liar. Justin said, I know my wife's not a liar. So when that came to me the way it came to me, my reaction was probably stronger than I wish it had been. So I apologize. She says, thank you. Girl, the way Whitney was looking at him, and I was too. I get why he did it though. Just kind of smooth things over. But of course, there was a part of me that was like, oh. Um, Lisa said, I apologize for putting you in that position. Whitney says, thank you for apologizing to him because that's not something that we've ever done before. Bring the husbands into it. Lisa says, never. In her confessional, Whitney says, we all know that Lisa will never take accountability for the role that she played in the rumors about Prism and Alibaba. So the fact that she was able to apologize to my husband is enough for me to put a button on that and be done with the Alibaba thing. We'll see. Meredith says that was really nice. It was really nice to see. Sean, I want to say that I appreciate earlier the conversation that we had, and we have a flashback to them at Angie and Sean's anniversary dinner with Meredith and Sean talking. She says, but I have to be honest. I walked away a little hurt and upset. I felt like I gave you a hard, wait a minute. Child, my notes, I use voice to text. I don't know what I wrote. But basically, Meredith was saying, I felt like I told you my position about how I felt about you saying something about my son, and you didn't apologize. Sean looks really shocked. Like, Sean looks like, huh? Basically, Sean says, you're going to have to tell me what exactly it is that I said. And Meredith says, I can pull it up for you later. And Whitney's like, no, just say it. So Meredith says, I'm Meredith let Sean know I'm getting ready to paraphrase. Like, basically, these may not be your exact words, but I'm getting ready to paraphrase. I just want to clarify that. She said, but the message was that I was using my son's sexuality to deflect from my own bad behavior. Sean responded to a question that was asked of him. And basically, he was on a podcast, Behind the Velvet Rope, and he was asked a question. And Sean said, that she took the opportunity to leverage her son, knowing that this didn't land quite like they wanted it to, because it was about the rumors, her allegedly participating in rumors about Sean being gay. So Sean says to Meredith, I didn't say anything about Brooks in the press. Whitney says, what did he say, Meredith? Give the proof. Seth has his phone in his hand and reads a headline. Sean Trullo, is that what his last name is? Sean Trullo accuses Meredith Marks of using her son Brooks after gay rumors. And then he shows his phone to Whitney and says, proof, biatch. I was taken aback because when they showed it, like in the upcoming episodes, I thought, oh, he's not talking to Whitney. It just making it seem like it, but he was. Whitney looks so shocked. I'm surprised Justin didn't say anything. Whitney says, did you just call me a biatch? And he says, yeah, I did, because you said, show me the proof. So I'm showing you proof. And you want to talk about Justin? Do people want to talk about Justin? So Whitney says, wow, Seth. In her confessional, Whitney gathers herself and says, I've got to zip up my energy real tight right now, because it is taking everything I have not to leap across the table and beat the ish out of this man. And I'm going to tell y'all something. I think Whitney would take him. I was with Whitney. Angie said, that's clickbait-ish. What's the effing comment? Which I get it. That's just the clickbait headline. What's the comment? In her confessional, Angie says, a headline from a random blog proves nothing. Like, she has way too much time on her hands and she's just looking for drama. Sean says in the scene, you're taking it out of context. If you probably listened to the entire podcast, you would probably understand where I was coming from. What I can remember is the stuff that was talked about last year not landing well, and you utilize the LGBTQ community to kind of leverage some kind of leverage of some sort. But I never said anything specifically about Brooks. Meredith says, so you're saying that you never said any of this? Sean said, I've already told you twice. Come on, Sean, showing up. And I would never use your kid in a bad way. I would never use that against you. So for you to kind of victimize yourself once again and make it about you. Now, again, he's saying I didn't say anything bad about Brooks. He did comment about Brooks. He answered a question that was asked specifically about Brooks, but I don't believe he was he wasn't speaking negatively about Brooks. So Meredith says, "Oh, I'm not victimizing myself at all. I told you that I was hurt by something. That's all." Sean said, "I can authentically give you an apology." Sean says, "I can't authentically give you an apology." Meredith says, "Because you're not sorry." Sean said, "This is not about being sorry or not sorry. I can't remember leveraging or using, right? I can't remember saying you were leveraging or using Brooks as you would like to say." Meredith says, "It's just a strange response and it was upsetting." Sean said, "Let me tell you something. If I said anything like demeaning towards Brooks, I'll certainly apologize. But I haven't done that. I have not done that. And I'll stand on that and I'll double down on it." Meredith says, "Okay." In her confessional, Meredith says, "This isn't a real apology." Meredith is no apology because he already said that. She says, "But we're beating a dead horse. Like Sean and Angie clearly don't see any wrongdoing. They think it's fine to talk about someone's child that way. So no. Thank you for letting me know. I'm moving on." Sean, in the scene, Sean says, "I do want a path forward with you guys. Like we had a great time today. I can see us, continuing to have a friendship and have a great time. But that's my wish. But at the end of the day, I think it's up to you guys." Angie says, "Okay, let's change the subject. Like in other news, like I love Todd. He's one of the funny ones at the table tonight. Let's hear about how Gwen is reconnecting with her grandparents." Todd shut that all the way down. Todd was like, "She's not, and we're not going there." And I understand that completely. Kind of sort of coming, I can relate to that situation a little bit. Um, Todd said, "That's worse than what you've been through." And Angie was really shocked. Because Angie meant no malice. She was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Bronwyn is trying to explain why. And she's like, "Lisa didn't mean to get involved in this and that." And Todd was like, "Nah, dead it. I understand that." Because it's about Bronwyn as well. And he did it. I feel like he did it trying to protect Bronwyn and Gwen. It may have come out a little harsh, but I get it. In her confessional, Bronwyn says, "I don't know. I don't know. This is why I was worried. I thought the ladies were going to embarrass me. But it's Todd that embarrasses me at this moment, as much as I love him. There is definitely a dynamic around anger and frustration that we handle very differently. Todd has a very specific stopping point, and there's no going past that." I felt like, in other words, he has boundaries. Todd says the topic is just going to piss me off, so let's just stay away from it. I get it. Trust me, I could see Corey being like that too, because again, I can kind of relate to that situation a little bit. And Corey will be like, because what we're not about to do is go into it. Not trying to boss me or rule me, but like, nah, I know this situation. He probably knows the hurt that Bronwyn and Gwen have experienced behind this, seen the tears, the frustration. So no, we're not going to talk about it. Y'all, that was my laundry thing. My laundry alarm. Y'all, I keep an alarm, okay? In his confessional, Todd says, "I'm not going to have this discussion at this dinner table to celebrate an anniversary. It's a personal issue for Gwen and me as a support for both of them. It's not up to discuss at the dinner table. Frankly, it wasn't Lisa's business to bring it up to begin with." Because Bronwyn did not ask her to go and say anything. When Bronwyn showed that picture of her dad and not knowing that Lisa knew, Bronwyn didn't ask Lisa to try to broker anything. Lisa put her nose in it on her own. And then for Lisa to be on the after show, even though this part got cut out, saying that they thought that she had a miscarriage because that's what Bronwyn told them. And Bronwyn is like, "Nah, I have proof and receipts and screenshots that they knew." So it's like you insert yourself in it. And this is how Lisa functions with a lot of things. If you notice, you insert yourself in it. Then when you get called out for being wrong or not knowing it, then it's not for me to speak on. Now you want to back out of it, like the Heather and Bronwyn thing. Okay, so they show them all getting ready to go to the racetrack the next day. In her confessional, Whitney says, After the dinner, I don't know if it was just pure exhaustion, but we ended up having a really good time. So then they flash us back to that night at the dinner. They're all watching the fireworks. There's two hearts, I guess, for Todd and Bronwyn. Angie comes out in the kitchen in a floaty. Y'all, I was cracking up. I said, was Angie tipsy or was she drunk? Um, Meredith was playing pool with Sean. It looks like it was Meredith and Sean playing pool. All the ladies then were in the hot tub and they grabbed their glass. And Whitney was like, see, this is what it's about. Child, they definitely drunk. This is what it's about. We fight so much. And Lisa says, but we really love each other. So Whitney goes, last one in the pool has to. And before they could think anything, child, Meredith jumps out and jumps into that pool. They all end up having a really good time, which was nice to see. So Whitney says, waking up this morning, aside from a slight hangover, I think we're all in a better place. So Bronwyn, they're on their way to the racetrack. Bronwyn talked about how important this is for her. This trip is for her because Indy is important to them and to her and Todd because it was one of their first dates. They meet Joseph, who's like the Indy winner last year. They all think he's handsome and cute. Lisa says, take your shirt off. And in all fairness, she said it because the lady that first came out said to greet them, said basically ask him about his abs. So Seth asked him if he's single, asking for a friend. And the guy says, no, he's married with a young son. And Seth says, sorry, Heather. Child, we ain't thought about Heather this trip. Other than them calling her, we've been having a good time without Heather. I didn't miss Heather. It seems like a really cool experience that they had. I thought it was dope. Lisa and Bronwyn were going to try to have a conversation. Hold on, y'all. I got to stop because this is every night, me and Corey, what's for dinner? And I asked him, don't judge me, y'all, to get me beefaroni the other night. And he brought me Denti Moore beef stew, which I do like. I do pick the meat out and just eat the potatoes and the tomatoes. Well, I mean, potatoes and carrots. But he brought that thinking. So he's trying to be smart, saying, you're probably recording, but do you want me to pick up dinner at beefaroni? So I'm going to say, I want Litos. Y'all know about Litos. But none of us feel like driving there. So I will take beefaroni. I'm sorry, y'all, but I just had to put that out there because maybe he'll end up saying I'll drive to Litos. I saw that and I was like, you're trying to be funny. Anyway, sorry about that. So Lisa and Bronwyn, we're going to talk, but it was funny because it was like, you hear, so, I was thinking, it's like, okay, they definitely can't talk about it. So Meredith says it's freezing and Seth says keep drinking. Whitney whispers to Justin, why does Meredith always look pissed off? Justin says that's her resting face. Whitney says, oh, okay. Justin says, my ex-wife had that. Meredith has her arms around Seth's neck and Seth says, what did I do to deserve this? They get back to the house and Sean was sitting outside. Angie walks outside. She looks so cute in her little shorts and heels and says, I'm aerating their lawn. And Sean says, I'm going to hire you to aerate my lawn. And Angie says, I'm not cheap. Seth comes out to tell them, see you later. He's leaving to go to the airport. He said, I got to go to Columbus. Child, Angie brings up Columbus, sailed the ocean blue in 1492. He may have sailed it, but he did not discover a thing because it was already here. Next. So he leaves. So then Sean and Angie start talking, and Sean says it's interesting. I mean, he's interesting. Just like last night, we were talking, and he brought up your clickbait to you guys. And Sean says he's calling you biatches, but he's really calling you interest. I said, Sean is really falling right in. He knew to go right into that conversation. Angie says the thing is, they were really quiet at the race today. I don't know if something else is going on. So Whitney and Justin walk out to join them. Angie said they were talking about that awkward moment at dinner last night with Seth blurting out biatch. Justin says, yep. What he said was unnecessary, rude, and uncalled for. In his confessional, Justin says, when did the men start getting involved in everything? You would have thought that we've learned our lesson at Angie's. They flash back to all the men being outside, except for Seth. So then they show all the men outside, then they bring up like a picture of Seth with the X. So then Seth says, oh, actually, Seth wasn't at Angie. Shocking. Whitney says, wait, what? Oh, so they talk about Meredith bringing up the issue with Sean again. holding a grudge. And Whitney is basically like, that's what I'm sick of, holding on to it. It's like you work it out and then you turn around and it's still a problem. Angie says, I feel like I could say so much, but I want to keep the peace. Whitney says she always has a problem with you and I. Angie says, I'm extending the olive branch, but basically, where is it getting me? I'm going to have to start slapping her with it. Like, do you want it or not? Seth is getting ready to leave and tells Meredith, I got to get out of here. You know, I did delay, but are we cool with the traveling? I mean, if she says no, then what? So Meredith says, well, it's a lot. I'm not loving it. Then he asks Meredith to fix his collar. This was so funny. I said either it was cut or it was awkward. Like either did they cut something out or it was awkward? Because he talks about how he's got to fly to Minneapolis and then the Columbus. Then Meredith fixes his collar. It's quiet. Then she gives it. Then she says, "Sounds awful." Gives him a kiss. Love you. I was like, wow. In her confessional, Meredith says, "I'm grateful that Seth decided to stay longer. And he's just leaving slightly before me, but he's not flying back to Utah. He's going to Ohio and he'll be gone all week. And we resolved the immediate fire, but there's still smoldering going on. We haven't really fixed anything." Do y'all believe that there's something really going on with Seth and Mary? Like she's really that upset about him leaving? Or do you believe that because it's true that he is flying out, he is leaving, that we're going to play this up as I'm being upset to have a story? Because other than the bar mitzvah, what else does she have? Y'all let me know what y'all think. Meredith and Lisa, Bronwyn and Lisa go talk, dip their little toes in the pool. They get nowhere. Lisa basically can't take accountability for what Bronwyn is telling her. So Bronwyn is like, I just want you to let Heather know that her experience of me is not your experience of me. Do you think I'm a two-faced ish? And Lisa can't even say no. She repeats her, do I think you're a two-faced? So in her confessional, she says it's hard for her to say that because sometimes she does feel that way. This is my issue that I have, because Bronwyn is not always 100% correct. She's been right in a lot of things, but there are things, you know, none of them are perfect. But this is my issue with a Heather and with a Lisa. Bronwyn is being direct. And for you to sit in your confessional and say, I do sometimes think she's two-faced. First of all, do you think she's been two-faced with you? Have you experienced that with her? And if you thought she was two-faced with the Whitney thing, why didn't you just say that? That is my issue with Lisa. You can holler, scream, call names in scene. I didn't do that to you. I don't understand how you put up with your wife who's a liar. Like you can say all these things, whatever, whatever. But when it's dead on and someone's in your face, and Bronwyn is very smart, knows how to use her words, you couldn't even answer her. If you're supposed to be her friend, you could have said, I've never experienced you being two-faced. No, I did think it was two-faced when we were all having the conversation in the sprinter. I mean, when her, Heather and Bronwyn were together. But even then, Lisa was a part of that. They all were a part of it. So again, how is she being two-faced? Lisa, you did the same thing to Maylee. I cannot think of that girl's name, but you know, Whitney's friend. I would rather Lisa have said, yeah, even if it was a BS reason why she thought it, I would rather her have been upfront to her face the way Bronwyn's been direct. So I don't know. Let me see. So this was funny because when Lisa couldn't answer it, Bronwyn said, I'm going to put the bar all the way on the floor so you can trip over it. Lisa's still not direct. She's not the baby she thinks she is. I'm sorry. Lisa was trying to apologize and then went to apologize, but then basically like, I'm sorry that you felt that way. But with Heather's feelings, Bronwyn said, put a stop stop after the apology, basically. We don't have to baby Heather's feelings. I can baby Heather's feelings when we get back. Lisa says, the bottom line is I'm here because I want to be here with you. Can I give you a hug? I know you don't like hugs. I didn't like that conversation got nowhere because Lisa wasn't honest in that conversation if she truly felt that Bronwyn wasn't two-faced. She just don't want to break the alliance, the pact that she has with Heather, period. I think about Lisa saying, I'm not a liar. I'm not this. Remember in season one with the whole issue of the thumbs up because Lisa had told someone that in college Heather was the good time girl, what? And lifts up her shirt as if Heather flashed people, only to come to find out that Heather wasn't like that in college. So that's why I say, like, Lisa, you're not like, I don't know. She just annoys me, y'all. And she's not always wrong. I can say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's not always, but I do feel like Lisa lacks accountability and it can be very frustrating to talk to her. And then when you have someone like Bronwyn who's straightforward and talking to her, it's like she can't even with the conversation. So everyone's packing. The producer asked Todd, would you ever do this again? Todd says, I'll never do it again. Do y'all think that Todd was talking about going on a trip like this or the show being a part of it? John says, I'm excited to see Henry. And Lisa says, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see him. They go out, take a group picture. Now they're looking at their flight home. Angie's like, how are we getting home? Brian was like, I got you, Angie. I baby Todd. I baby Gwen. I'll baby you too. Or I'm mother to Todd, to Gwen. I'll mother you too, or what have you. Bronwyn is in first class. She said there were only 4 seats available. So she put her and Todd up there. And then the rest, everyone else, she put with their spouses. Lisa's freaking out because she has to fly coach. In her confessional, she says, I don't carry coach. I don't fly coach. Bronwyn was saying it's a 47-minute flight. She can fly coach. Lisa went as far as to have John look up flights. And when they were all sold out, said, well, basically they could catch a flight that has a stopover, a layover in that stops in LAX and LA. And John is like, but I don't care. I want to get home to Henry. I want to get home too, but he'll be okay. I felt like in that moment, John was a bit exhausted, like, or maybe not exhausted, but like a little bit irritated. Like, is she really, you're willing to take another flight and stop in LAX when you could be home in an hour in Utah? To me, that was a bit much. I know people say that's what housewives do. That's the housewives carrying on. To me, Lisa wants people to view her a certain way, wants people to have a certain perception of her, like the same perception that she has of herself. Like, I'm this fabulous thing. And I don't sit and coach. I don't fly coach. It's like, girl, it's an hour. And then I believe on the after show, if I'm not mistaken, Bronwyn said basically Lisa knew this beforehand and could have tried to change her flight then. I'm pretty sure she said that, which if that's the case, then to me, it's like, oh, so then she said this for the camera. If that's the case. I don't know, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think overall about the episode. Did you enjoy it? Are you still enjoying Salt Lake City? Robert Jr. and his wife, not wife, up in his bed, y'all. Like, what? Bronwyn and Lisa against everybody, pretty much. Y'all let me know what y'all think. How did y'all like the men stepping up and being involved, especially Sean? I will talk to y'all later. I love y'all so much. See ya. What y'all having for dinner? Because I'm still not even sure about the beefaroni. I might want something different. Bye, y'all. Child, I can't look now. I can't even get out the daggone recording. All right, I'm leaving for real.